afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the introduction to our new AI virtual assistant product, Xivea. We're really excited that you joined us, and we're also very excited to share the details of this new product, how you can get started using it, and what we have going on at ClearlyIP and 14IP moving forward. So let's start with introductions. So my name is Corey McFadden. I'm Chief Product Officer here at 14IP, ClearlyIP. And Tracy Liu is joining as well. She is VP of Channel Sales. Today, we're going to cover the Xivea AI Virtual Assistant and talk about how it can help you replace IVRs for an AI Receptionist use case scenario. We'll also talk about how Xivea is built, why it's a little different than other AI assistants, and how you can use that to differentiate yourself from other companies and do a better job answering callers' questions and effectively route them in your organization. We'll get into that a little bit in the use case and integrations discussion. And then we'll talk about how to activate. We'll do a little demo and then talk about pricing and open it up for questions and answers. So to begin with, for everybody who's not gotten the notifications and the news about this, ClearlyIP and 14IP have merged together as of October of 2025. And it's a very exciting development because we got two really great companies, both of which have a different sort of set of skills and criteria around what they do in different markets. So ClearlyIP is very strong all over North America and several other areas in the world. And ClearlyIP and 14IP has had historical footprint all over the world. And this expands our coverage from hospitality to almost every other industry. So it's a really great combination, very good team synergies, and we're really excited to bring what's next to the market. So that is really the sort of high level on that. And then I'll turn it over to Tracy to talk a little bit more about how we're set up and then the product portfolio for anybody who's not familiar.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. So this is the corporate reach for 14IP and ClearlyIP and our combined team. We have corporate offices in North America, in Wisconsin, and in Florida, in the US, and Montreal and Vancouver in Canada. We also have some offices located globally in the UK, Mexico, Ireland, and Singapore. So really, we have a team of global telecom experts located all over the world. And this is our product set for ClearlyIP. Our flagship product is Clearly Cloud, which is a distributed multi-tenant UCaaS platform. It's our main focus, and it generates a ton of growth for us. What makes us different than other UCaaS providers out there is we also manufacture our own IP desk phones and gateways that go with our platforms as well as others. And these phones and gateways are built really well. We sell them at great prices. On the left, Clearly Anywhere is our mobile app and soft phone that runs on top of Clearly Cloud and CommExchange, as well as some FreePBX platforms. We also have Cloud Device Manager, which is our agnostic device provisioning solution. It's highly integrated with Clearly Cloud, but it also runs independently. And then CommExchange is our hospitality PBX solution. We built CommExchange specifically for the hotel industry. Then we have SIP trunking, which is how we got started back in the day. It's a high quality, reliable SIP trunking platform. We also have a panic button, which is an emergency alert solution that we designed for schools to meet the requirements for Alyssa's Law, which requires schools to install a panic button, panic alarm in every classroom. But we find that panic button can be used for all different types of businesses and different scenarios. It allows you to broadcast everything happening during an emergency situation to critical team members. And of course, we have Send Fax too, which is our electronic virtual faxing solution.
Awesome. Thanks, Tracy. So to dive in here, let's talk about what voice assistants are and how they kind of differentiate from your typical AI virtual assistant. So over the last few years, there's been a lot of products that have come and labeled themselves as AI assistants. And these range from your basic home assistants that can, kind of turn on your lights and do some other automations. But lately, with the incorporation of large language models and generative AI, they also will mean chatbots, web interfaces like ChatGPT and so forth, mobile apps and things along those lines. In our case, we're focusing on a voice-based AI assistant that works with this whole mixture of platform components and is available over the PSTN in a native way that most products do not do. So the overall feature set, we'll get into, a little bit more in terms of all the capabilities, but at a basic level, it's really a natural speech interface to large language model systems that integrate with your internal information to handle lookups, questions, answers from callers and so forth, and then hopefully answer those callers' questions to their satisfaction, so you don't necessarily need to tie up people to do that. So first call resolution, but also to transfer the callers effectively and some other things. So let's kind of zoom back out and talk about the need and why these assistants are really important right now and how they can be helpful for your organization. So historically, we've always wanted to have a live person provide that initial entry point to any kind of organization. That is just generally the best way to give a good human feel and, kind of impart the right experience. But the problem is scaling that and making it consistent. So you have receptionists and folks that, have worked in an organization for a very long time, know a lot about the departments and who needs to receive what types of calls under what circumstances. They know a lot about the products and the services, so they can route the callers appropriately, but also can answer basic questions like parking and directions and so forth. The problem is that doesn't scale. So that person can't work there forever. They may have a bad day. You might have a lot of calls coming in, and that person may have to keep them on hold for a while in order to service them properly. So most small businesses, find themselves struggling with this at any level. It's kind of rare to see someone in a dedicated receptionist role these days. And that's really where IVRs have sort of stepped in and become the de facto entry point for most organizations. It's very common to call any office and hear, your call may be recorded, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, and then another set of menus depending on what you press the first time and so forth. And callers, obviously are very frustrated by this experience as generations shift. Folks that are growing up without that, touch tone phone sort of mindset, they struggle with understanding why pressing these buttons is required. They can't, just say what they want. And, overall, IVRs are just very tough to get right efficiently. So there's almost nobody who's ever said they really, really like calling into an IVR, as opposed to somebody who could route their call and answer their questions promptly and, correctly. Then the other thing is, we want to take the burden off of your staff. So in the event you're spending any human time answering dumb questions or, filtering out spam callers, robocallers, things like that, or you're just, again, providing basic call routing inside the organization, this is, time that can be better spent handling more complicated calls that might drive revenue or, give a better experience. And then in terms of, volume and predictability, any time of the day or night, the AI assistant is able to handle as many calls as you need concurrently, as many calls as your trunks are set up to support. And again, we set this up so that we have a good level of success with our customers and, can provide a good experience for your callers. So we'll talk more about that a little bit as we go here. But we really talk about the main goals with an AI receptionist as replacing that main entry point, that basic clunky IVR that frustrates, with something that's more adaptive and can handle human conversation. And then the next main objective is to answer frequently asked questions. And we talked about the directions and parking and things like that, lots of last minute quick questions that callers generally would be very frustrated to be put on hold to get an answer to. But also, other basic information about your products and services. So if you have tech support information you want to load up, or product knowledge that you want the AI assistant to have, or if there's a complicated series of, directions involving which people should be transferred to which departments under which circumstances, you can set the assistant up to ask the questions that you need to get the callers routed in the right way, but also providing information that is sourced by you. So if you have up-to-date calendars or events or other information that's time sensitive, you can upload that through our portal. We're working on synchronization and automation around that as well. But also something that generally people on the other end of a call center scenario or a reception role don't do that fluently, which would be like texting links to your callers. Someone calls and asks for directions. Is it really efficient to explain to them in geographical terms and landmarks how to find it, or just send them a link? Most people would be really happy if you send them a text link that they can open up in their nav system if they're trying to find your office. So that's a feature we've seen a lot of success with, and people really are excited about. Use cases are varied. As we talked about, answering basic questions, handling overflow in the event that you have excessive call volume here and there, but also just trying to provide a consistent amount of coverage for holidays, for when you're closed, or any time of the day or night. There's no reason now that you need to have a varied experience, open, closed, etc. You can have the assistant manage that very, very nicely. So why do we build this? There's lots of competitors out there that have started creating platforms and products. We really found that none of them did it well. They don't integrate with PBXs. They don't think about things in terms of call flow from a telephony perspective. So they kind of started at a disadvantage by envisioning the world through web chat and other, processes. So we really started by building the platform with the human experience in mind. So we wanted to create something that would give callers the experience of talking to a human. And that means having low latency, so you're not waiting a long time for each response from the assistant. Direct integration with our trunking platform, so this glues it all together at a very high level. Obviously, we're playing at a disadvantage in the VoIP world. There's latency that we don't have in the legacy PSTN to begin with. And a lot of platforms out there are transferring calls back and forth. There's trunks to and from your system, and each level of connection and transfer adds additional latency. So that adds up, and the systems themselves aren't that responsive. So when you compound all that together, you get something that feels like a walkie-talkie. Many systems are not interruptible. So we wanted to make sure that conversations could happen naturally, which means that if the assistant misunderstood you, or you just change your mind and it starts saying, okay, well, great, I'll get you transferred to somebody who can schedule that appointment for you, and you say something effective, no, wait, actually, I have a quick question I'd like to ask before you do that, our system will handle that. It will totally respond, change context, and deal with questions that the caller brings up. And the other thing is speaker cadence. So we've noticed that when we deploy this out in the world, in various parts of the country, in various demographics, there is a variety of different levels of speech, right? So people talk slower or faster depending on their age, their circumstances, and their own situation. So if you have somebody who's elderly calling into a doctor's office and trying to kind of rummage through their purse looking for information about a prescription or an appointment, they might respond very slowly, and there may be pauses and interruptions, and a lot of systems will just try to process every sentence as it comes in and won't consider that the person is speaking slower or faster. So we actually measure that as the call goes on so that we can give that caller a really good experience. The other thing we do is give you the ability to configure this such that it can provide an experience consistent with your brand, with your organization. So we can customize the voices such that they have a good feel. They give you a representation of what you want things to sound like. So we can adjust the tone, the pace, and lots of other characteristics. We'll cover this a little bit in the demo. And the other thing is obviously confining the information to that which you want to present. So one of the big fears with using AI assistants is that it will invent or hallucinate information. So we wanted to make sure when we're building this platform that that wasn't going to happen to our customers. So when we build a lot of guardrails and controls around the system such that it will only utilize the information you provide to respond to the callers. So other than, basic sentence structure and language and, information about the world, time of day and so forth, everything you provide is what is the basis for the responses. So if you're a school district, for example, and you want to upload your policies and procedures or your schedule of events, and you want to have that available for your callers, we can do that. If you want to provide product support or information about your services, you can upload brochures and other information or knowledge base articles, tech support stuff, anything you want. I'll help explain that through the demo in the web interface. But at all times, the assistant will stay on topic and provide answers that are contextual to what you've uploaded. The next thing that's really important is providing the ability to transfer callers to the right destination inside the organization. So instead of just blindly transferring callers to external numbers that may or may not route to where you want, we can, by way of the integration with the PBXs, actually get callers directly to the right extension. So if you have someone that is looking for accounting or is looking for sales, and you want to put those in as transfer destinations, we can ensure that the assistant will send the callers directly to those destinations as opposed to having them go through other steps. So it gives it a nice user experience, good flow. And then the other thing is, from a transfer perspective, there is integrated information in the payload. So future integrations, or if you have a call center system and you're, sophisticated to create screen pops and things like that, you can work with our team and we'll point you towards information about the SIP headers that contain IDs, and you can use that to fetch the transcript of the conversation that the assistant had. We're also working on a roadmap level of warm transfers and things like that. So we'll talk more about that as coming soon. But I mentioned integration, so let me dive into this a little bit more. Out of the box, if you're using Clearly Cloud, our UCaaS system, Com Exchange, or any FreePBX system, Tango PBX distribution, etc., by way of our Clearly trunking module, we have integration and can provide those direct transfer points to internal destinations. The other thing we can do, and this is the case regardless of the phone system that you're using, is configure caller bypass numbers. What this means is you might have employees or some partner that you want to have skip the AI assistant and go directly to the trunk to your PBX. And we'll talk about how calls are routed in just a moment. But this might be appropriate for things like two-factor calls from a bank, confirmation type things. If you have a partner, or like if you're at a medical office, like a pharmacy type situation, you can put as many numbers as you want, and if the caller ID matches any of those, they'll skip right over the assistant and route directly to your PBX. So speaking of call flow, out of the box, normally with our trunking, the way it works is you dial a number, routes over the SIP trunk to your PBX, and if your entry point is an IVR, callers will navigate that to ultimately find the right destination. With an AI assistant in the middle, what happens is the phone number is redirected and answered by the AI assistant first. If the caller's questions can be answered, there's no transfer to the PBX. It is self-contained and completely reduces that call flow. In the event that the call needs to still go to a human, and we want to transfer to the right internal destination like accounting, it will directly go to that extension that you've configured. So there's no intermediate IVR steps. But if there's like a general I don't know how to match it kind of a thing, or a catch-all you want to still send to your original IVR, that will work just fine. So it's designed to be very seamless and easy to use with our trunking. So as long as you're using trunking from ClearlyIP, any of these systems are able to be connected. All right, so let's dive in and do a quick demo. I'll show you guys how to activate a number and create an assistant. This is very easy to try. It is, as you'll see, not expensive. We'll get into the pricing and purchasing and terms and so forth as we go, but This is a very easy product to play around with. You can get a number and trial it before you activate it on your main number, and it's very easy to turn off if you have any issues or you need to set it up a little bit more or have any other things you need some help with. So the first thing you're going to do is log into our Clearly Cloud portal or our trunking portal. It's the same. And once you've logged in, you'll get taken to our main menu on our dashboard. What you'll do then is go to products and services, and at the bottom you'll see AI voice assistants. This label will be updated in the next few days or so with the new name, Xivea AI assistants. When you click on this for the first time, what you'll need to do is activate the service. In here, it kind of walks you through the pricing model, how this will apply. There's no immediate charges that will happen on your next monthly invoice, and we'll talk more about that as we get to the next section. You'll go through the terms of service, make sure that everything is good to go, and then once you've accepted at that point, we should then be able to create assistants. So now we are at a point where we can go ahead and add a new one and kind of get some things loaded up. So what I'll point out first of all is that we're at this top level. You can have as many assistants as you want. If you have different subject areas and you kind of confine things to particular topics or have a different answer phrase, if you got multiple locations, you would have one assistant for each one of those. But that said, you might have resources that you don't want to duplicate, so like product information and things like that. So we'll talk about this a little bit more as we kind of circle back. But let's go ahead through the process of creating a new assistant. So the very first thing we'll do is just basically give the assistant a title. So we'll call this ClearlyIP. And the billing profile is basically the trunking location that you will link the assistant to for invoicing, but also for the trunking. So the PBX that you would want to transfer the callers out of the assistant into needs to be attached to the trunking location in question. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick one here for the demo. This won't really do anything really. And then because we can answer questions like, operating hours and things like that, it's important that we know where the assistant is meant to be located from a time zone perspective. So I'll just go ahead and pick New York. Skip over the next tab for the moment, which is where we link the inbound number, and we'll go right on to interactivity, and we'll kind of walk our way back there. We have a different use case that's not the AI Receptionist, where we have other things where for outbound and other things coming down the road. For right now, the agent speaks first answer mode is the one that you'll kind of be working with and see. If you want to be able to send text messages to callers for the purpose, for example, of sharing like a navigation link, you're going to want to choose one of the DID numbers that has been enabled for texting. There just happens not to be one on this particular account. So for the purpose of this demo, we'll just skip over that feature. It's also kind of difficult to show you that remotely. You can set up a couple different kinds of links here, but that list will be expanded in the future as well. So here's an example. Any of these little icons you see next to a field can be moused over to give you more information about that and a suggestion on how to fill it out. We're also going to have training videos we'll talk about at the end that you'll have access to. It'll give you a little bit more background about how each part of the system works and how to utilize it. So in this case, we could put a Google Maps link, for example, and that's what would be texted in the event that someone asks for directions. All right, so that's interactivity. Voice settings is where we would define the persona. So we can give the assistant a name if you want to have it be a little bit more personalized. Otherwise, that's an option. You could choose the tone. Again, if it's a formal situation, if you have something more casual, if it's sales or it's like a fun kind of party thing. Default is polite and professional, which will cover almost all use cases. For voices, you'll just pick one of the categories here, and that'll give you a list of options to pick from. So any of these voices you can preview by hitting the try button. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this.
Hey there, Tiffany here, bright, bold, and full of energy for your callers.
And then we have some different personas depending on the location in the world.
Hello there, I'm Claire. Clear, friendly, and happy to guide your callers.
So we'll pick that one. And then the greeting is where we would customize what the assistant is going to say for answering calls. So I have some copy paste here. Just kind of keep this moving along. So we'll do, thank you for, you've reached ClearlyIP, I'm going to help you. And then you can preview that.
You've reached ClearlyIP. How can I help you?
Make sure that sounds the way you like. And then you can kind of continue from there. We have an advanced mode where you can do announcements that you've pre-recorded. So if you have like an emergency, call 911 if this is a medical emergency kind of announcement or something legal that you want to precede your greeting phrase with, we can configure that in more detail, but we'll skip over that for the moment. Organization basics are where you'll populate the information that the system is going to utilize to answer questions and understand itself. So I'll just take some description I found on our website here for the company, a little bit about the background, and then we'll just fill in some basics. This is all optional, so if you don't have a physical location, you don't need an address. This is just going to be provided to the language model so it has some information to work with. The structure is pretty free form. So you can do something like this for your operating hours. I'm just going to put in 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. M-F and then Saturday. So we can kind of see how it handles that. And then under resources, I'm going to do something here I didn't really talk about. And I'm going to load up some product literature, but we'll do that as a way of demonstrating the library and activating that. So we'll come back to that in just a second. And then transfer destinations. This out of the box, again, works with Clearly Cloud, FreePBX with the Clearly trunking module, and then pretty much any other basic PBX. We have, by way of SIP headers, the ability to extract that internal destination if that's something that you want to implement outside of our supported PBXs. If you want to enter a phone number that is going to bypass the system, you would just do it right here. And then we have the destinations. So this is where you're going to define any internal destinations that are going to receive callers. So what does that mean? Well, in this instance, I'm just going to set up one example here for, let's do accounting. And we'll type in, spell receivables, right? Any related to invoices, payables, receivables, or accounting. And then that's going to go to extension 2000 on this PBX. So I hit save. And now we've defined an internal destination. You can have as many of these as you want. You can have different paragraphs that sort of describe scenarios where callers might be routed to one or the other so that it can ask questions and get it sorted out properly. There's lots of ways you can configure this with nuance. You also have the option, if you want to mimic a legacy experience of taking DTMF inputs from the caller. So if you want to, for example, as part of your greeting, say, if you want this, if you want to talk to someone in another language, press a digit, and then we can have that person transferred into the PBX. Speaking of language, we are going to talk about coming soon, and we will have languages in addition to English very soon, but for right now, it is in English. There are some transfer destinations down at the bottom for other generic situations, such as caller having difficulty or what have you. And then under the call data tab is where you can define a little bit more about what you want to store. So for example, if a caller or not caller, but if the organization is in an industry that's particularly regulated and you don't want to store a transcript, you can turn that off. Normally, we'll have the transcript available after the call. We'll have summarization of calls available and sentiment analysis available on the calls as well. So our CDR module gives you the ability to look at all this call history, to dive in and look at the transcript as well as other information. Optionally, you can choose to record calls. This is something that you can then retain for anywhere between 30 days and 1 year. What will happen at the end of that time cycle is the calls will just automatically expire and be deleted. So this is really helpful if you want to have quality control, or you want to just have accountability, or if you have regulatory reasons you want to store those recordings. These are the options we offer at the moment. So we'll talk about that a little further. Let's go ahead and save this. So we now have an assistant. And the other thing I want to show you is how to populate information. So we can do things like, enter individual questions and so forth. But the other thing we can do is upload product literature and other detailed information. So I'm actually going to just take this brochure and upload that into the platform. So underneath the top level, so we've talked about, we went into the assistant and went through the wizard. We can go to info library here and actually import a document that's then available for any of the locations. So I'm just going to go ahead and upload this brochure that we just looked at. The folder name is just utilized for your own internal reference. So I'll just call it sales, and then I'll hit save. After that's saved, we actually have the ability to go in and look at the content. So you can see it actually pulled everything in from the PDF. Obviously, it's a language model, so the photos and the colors in the background is not really that relevant. So it compresses down really nicely and does a very good job of processing those PDFs into a good footprint. All right, so I'm going to go into the library inside the assistant, and I'm going to actually add that document. So I'll choose shared resources as the type, and now I can see the failover gateway brochure. So let's go ahead and save that, and then we'll add some other basic information like parking. We have large parking lots. And then you can actually just type in anything you like from a Q&A perspective. Where are you? Yes, our warehouse needs qualified forklifts. I don't think is the case. I think we're covered as far as forklift operators, but this is just, for the sake of demo. Great. And then the other thing we can do here is activate a number. So we're just going to go here and pick one of the DIDs on this location. So what I think I need to do is, hang on, cancel that. And I need to actually purchase a phone number because I don't have one assigned to location fake. So do that really quickly. So we're just going to go ahead and pick a number. Pick one in New York here. Any of these numbers are fine. Give it a label, and then go ahead and activate that. And we should have a number available in just a moment. And while that's activating, basically we'll just go back over here to the assistant. And I'll just walk you through some of the other areas. So sound library, again, this would be where if you want to upload legal announcements or any other branding recording, the caller bypass, this was where the phone number was entered before. So all of the phone numbers that are listed here can be applied to one or all of the assistants. So if you want to add a number and have that be global, if you've got a bunch of locations, you don't have to manage that individually. It's very efficient in that way. So now under inbound, we should have a number available, and there it is. So we'll go ahead and save. It's going to ask us if we want to activate it right away. So if we're in the process of creating some of these, we're going to have a template or something, or just want to set a number aside, but we're not quite ready to turn it on yet, you can hit save. But when you hit save and update routing, that will actually activate the number in our system. and get that routed to the AI assistant. So that should be live. So let's go ahead and what I'm going to do is actually make a demo call here and give you guys the full experience. So let me bring this up and kind of focus it on the library so we have a little bit of background.
You've reached ClearlyIP. How can I help you?
Hi. Yeah, can you tell me, do you guys have a kind of like failover equipment?
Did you mean failover equipment?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Offer a voice over IP failover gateway that provides a flexible and cost-effective solution to keep voice communication running during internet or power disruptions. Would you like to hear more details about its features?
That's great. Does it have any battery backup?
Please repeat that. I want to make sure I understand your question about the battery backup system.
Yeah, just does it have a battery backup?
Yes, the ClearlyIP failover gateway has an optional battery backup that can keep the system online for 10 hours or more during power failures. Would you like to know more about how this works?
Yeah, let me talk to somebody about buying one.
Please hold on while I transfer you to someone who can help you with that. Thank you for calling the demonstration system.
Okay, so thank you for calling the demonstration system. Recording is actually kind of the equivalent of a like an IVR or something on the PBX. So it's meant to kind of simulate what would happen when you go like to the main number. So in the case of a sales situation, you want to route it to a sales queue or a salesperson directly, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea. Let's try another one.
You've reached ClearlyIP. How can I help you?
I need to talk to somebody about an invoice. Can I talk to accounting?
Please hold on while I transfer you to someone who can help you. You've reached the accounting department. Thanks for calling.
Okay, so in that case, we actually transferred directly to the accounting department because we had entered extension 2000 as that destination. So hopefully that gives everybody at least a preliminary idea of how this works and what our options look like. But let me pivot back over to our slide deck here. And all right, so let's dive back into the presentation. So we've done our demo. As you can imagine, there's lots of information online to help you learn about how to set up an assistant, as well as step-by-step how to be successful with the product. We're also here to help. Coming soon, just so you guys know, in addition to what we talked about, additional languages are coming. We're working on adding things like website integration to scrape details. So, if you have product information or a schedule that change, we can get those automatically. Things like that are coming very soon, as well as CRM and PMS system integrations, and then some other features like warm transfers and message taking. Lots of really good things in the pipeline. So anything else that you have a need for that you feel like would be a good application for this, please reach out and let us know. We'd love to get your feedback so we can kind of vote on things and understand what our priorities should be as far as features and next steps. To begin with, on our website, you'll find information about the product, background, brochure, all that good stuff. Then we have on our knowledge base a detailed description of the web interface, how to set everything up. And we also have a video that you'll be able to access there that's a walkthrough of setting up an assistant, sort of a guided step-by-step. And all these things should really help you get started. But again, we're here to help and reach out with any questions or anything that's not making sense, and we'll help you work through it. All right, Tracy, do you want to take over and talk about the commercial element of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Corey. So let's talk about how to purchase Xivea. All right, so as Corey was demonstrating, it's pretty simple to turn Xivea on. You want to make sure that you have some SIP trunking or Clearly Cloud with us. But all you have to do is go to your products and services tab and click on AI or Xivea Voice Assistant. And then you'll activate the service by turning it on. As Corey showed, you'll just accept the terms and conditions, terms of service there. And then you're ready to start configuring that assistant. Then you go through the process that Corey just showed of configuring your assistant with information from your company and all that, and then setting up transfer destinations. And then finally linking those DIDs so you can start making and receiving calls. Now, pricing for Xivea is very simple. We don't have any additional commitments other than a flat per agent monthly fee, as well as usage for the time that is spent inside the assistant. So there's some usage-based pricing as well. So in the US, Xivea is $24.95 a month. Each virtual assistant for Xivea is $24.95 a month. And then on top of that, any usage while you're in Xivea, talking to Xivea, is 10 cents a minute. For our Canadian customers, it's $34.99 and 14 cents a minute. Now, if you're also wanting to retain some of the call recordings that Xivea makes, then it's $1 per gigabit per month in the US and $1.35 per gigabit per month in Canada.
Yeah, one thing about call recording I'll mention that I didn't bring up earlier is that we only record the portion of the call that we're on with the assistant. We do not have the ability to record the calls end to end. So if you want to record the interactions on your PBX, you'll have to do that there. So just keep that in mind.
So to give you an example of what usage might look like, some customers might not understand what their usage would be. We took an example from a small office. This is one of our customers that have been running Xivea for a year now. Actually, they are a dental office with many, many locations. So they have Xivea in each location. And one of their small offices gets about 50 main number calls a day. They actually have a somewhat longer message that you have to listen to. It's about 22 seconds, 20 seconds for a legal message. So they're averaging about a minute per call. So in their AI assistant monthly, they're doing about 1,100 minutes a month. That equates to about $110, right? So they're looking at $24.95, which is the monthly cost of the AI assistant, plus $110 for usage, giving them a total of $134.95. On top of that, they do want to keep their call recordings for a year. So they have 5 gigs of recording, and we're keeping it for 12 months. So that looks like $5 a month.
All right, awesome. Well, again, feel free to consult the resources. We have lots of information available to help you guys get started, and we're here to help. So please reach out. Thanks for your time.